trying to help a company launch an alternative media network. And when that failed to move into fruition, I then went off grid completely and went in the middle of the desert in South Colorado. And I'm still in rural Colorado. And I've been trying to see what the rest of America lives like outside of what I read on, blacklistednews.com or things I hear about on AmericanFreedomRadio.com's podcasts and shows. I set out with very little money and followed the synchronistic clues, as Freeman talks quite often about, in this journey to find out what it's really like to try to do it, not just talk about it. And that's still something that I'm trying to figure out how to do, how to be free literally, not just talk about being free.
Have you noticed that whenever you desperately need something, it just kind of turns up precisely when you need it, not before and not after?
Exactly, and I found specifically that I will receive what I need, not what I want. And I'll sit there and try to argue, and apply the law of attraction and say, no, I want internet now. I want truther friends and allies now. I don't want things to be this hard. And then I go through that hardship, whether I like it or not, and find myself a different person, a stronger person, having survived what some people thought was going to break me. So there's been many times where my car's broken down. I've had very little money or funds, sometimes no spare tire. And many times out in the middle of the desert, there has been someone that has come by to help me. So these are things that you learn along the way.
Yeah, it's kind of like having faith in a way.
Having faith in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. These groups are well known for having this idea of a higher power and it not being a religious one. But we can apply that type of thinking that alcoholics and drug addicts use to conspiracy research. And we too can come up with an understanding of a power greater than ourselves or our own ego, that this source, this oneness that we're all connected to. I feel we have responsibility to do that and do it outside of a religious box.
Some might argue, Alex, that there's not a whole lot of difference between a conspiracy theorist and a drug addict or an alcoholic.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is very easy to become addicted to certain information. And I think that there is a very fine line between being spiritually fit and being mentally ill. And as you talked about in detail on your show, counseling for truthers, which I've shared with a lot of my friends because it's funny and it's very real. Unless one makes an honest attempt to be spiritually fit, to live a moral life, this information that we deal with every day can F you up to a point to where your mother won't even recognize you. Or you won't even recognize your mother. This stuff has the power, if you're not spiritually fit, to take you away from the faith, to take you away from seeing where there are forces of good working through us and around us.
Yeah, I do believe that that's an absolute case. And it's like, once you stop thinking to yourself, you know what, I need this and I need that and I need the other, once you realize, hey, hold on a second, is it me deciding that I wanted those things, or is it somebody else decided that I wanted those things? Am I actually happier and a better man now that I have this new flashy fandangled cell phone, or this car that I don't actually own and the bank really owns? Am I happier now that I'm in massive amounts of debt? Am I happier now that I'm paying kind of like almost more than I can afford for my rent at the moment? Yeah, I'm kind of not.
Yeah, and that all deals with self-honesty, and that's responsibility, self-responsibility, and in some way, shape, or form, we have to work to continue to be self-honest with ourselves in the same way that someone that is working to become a better meditator, to become more aware, for those that have done Vipassana meditation and other forms of Buddhist meditations. The goal is to become very aware and very equanimous to what you're feeling and not overreact, to keep that reactive mind under control and in check. Well, there's a Buddhist saying that is to see things as they are. And we also, from those that have read Krishna's information, to see reality as it is, not as we want to see it. Well, the same thing goes for keeping ourselves in check and taking a look at our own spiritual hygiene. And there are things that I don't like to look about in terms of myself and the world at times, because it's upsetting. But that's also another reason why I went out into the desert, into the silence, because in the silence, and you're not if you're not on Facebook every day seeing everybody else's reality, then there's no one for you to blame for anything. You're just there in your own mental space. And I don't think it's healthy to just go out in the desert and stay there. But hell, I think everyone that truly seeks freedom should try a few months in the middle of nowhere and just be in your own thoughts and be in a space where you can't blame anyone for absolutely everything, anything whatsoever.
Mm.
And yeah,
And it helps to take along a horse with no name.
that's right. That's definitely true. And yeah, there's something about I think I've identified it as becoming more allergic to the city. In my travels from the last few years, I feel more allergic to these archonic, dense population centers. And Dallas was the last straw for me. Living in Dallas, Texas, this is like for anyone that's seen the movie They Live. If you want to think of a city other than New York and Los Angeles as a great city for that movie to be set, Dallas, Texas is it.
Could you elaborate? Because I've never been to Dallas.
Well, so I'm coming out of a situation where I leave my 6 to 7 years of doing a show on the same channel at the same time. They moved me around once, and that screwed things up for me. But the point is family. I developed a sense of family there in my hometown. And things were very tough for me economically. I couldn't afford to live anywhere. It seemed that there was no space for someone like me to get shelter at for more than a few days. And that hurt a lot. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe I need to start thinking more globally about my message and about my audience. And by the way, when donations have come in, when I've needed it, most of the time, they've been from someone that's seen my YouTube channel or listened to my show on American Freedom Radio or someone that knows me off of Facebook. I started to see more help coming from places outside of my own hometown. And I had to really grow spiritually to take that jump and go somewhere that was not a very spiritual place or a place where I felt at home, a place like Dallas, Texas. I'll talk about why I went there in a minute. But in Buddhism, there's and I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm using some of these ideas as memes for things I've been experiencing as I've been looking towards greater self-awareness and growth. The practice of the Buddhist mandala of creating a work of art with sand, creating something so magnificent and then blowing it away and starting again. That is how I would describe my leaving Portland at the age of 31. Basically starting over and having such faith in myself that I'll create again, and my ego doesn't have to be attached to what I already created. I'll just do it again somewhere else. So someone invited me to Dallas, and they paid me every week. It was actually the best paying job I've ever had, to help this person create their own alternative media network. However, I was not the manager, nor was I the shot caller. And so for reasons beyond my control, the funding after a year was no longer there to launch this network. And I was very much in disagreement with the CEO of this would-be alternative media network as to the cost. I wanted something that was free or, within $5 per month for people to have access to a network that would run alternative media content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Essentially, not only was I set up to do a daily half-hour show, but I was program director, and I was picking out some of your best shows and some of the best shows of Freeman and others for this real network that people could access on Roku. So to make a long story short, I went there on a leap of faith, and that faith was that I was moving in a more positive direction because I was letting go of my own ego, letting go of stability, of speaking, preaching, at times crying literally for people to wake up in my hometown because I wanted to keep it local, Vincent. I'm like, okay, you can't fix the whole world. You can't be Alex Jones. You certainly can't be Superman. So you got to make it local. And I thought that was the lesson for me in 2006, 7, 8, 9 as I was coming up. And then I had a shift of awareness again, right as Occupy was kicking off. And since then, I'm thinking more about the global audience and everyone everywhere, and not just small geographic areas. But in a nutshell, that's what led to me leaving Portland and what I built up and why I went to Dallas. And ultimately, I feel like it was all meant to happen for a reason, because for years on my show, I started to have more people on that were talking about living off the grid. People like Matthew Stein, when disaster strikes, when technology fails. and other related books. Some dealing with primitive wilderness survival. Some just dealing with food storage and underground shelters, and actually helping open a survival store called the Portland Preparedness Center before I left Portland, Oregon. So again, I wanted to live something more genuine and actually not be in a situation where I was asking for financial help from the audience. And I didn't really want to be in Portland anymore. I wanted to see the world. So all these steps and the intention that I put out there to live an off-the-grid lifestyle, it all led to me eventually being here.
It's amazing. This is awesome. It is quite scenic right here.
Now we're not there yet, but this is the general area where I was living last year, and he's passing through with his family here before he goes back to Texas. And I thought I would give him a little tour of this area, because before you consider staying somewhere, you might as well come out and see it first. And today's date is the 29th of December. So this is pretty much what it looks like around this time of the year.
I see why you want a shovel.
Yep. I told John earlier, he said he had a preparedness pack. I said, well, a shovel is one of the most important things you can have out here, especially when it rains. That's the river over here. And it's a really beautiful walk down the river. We'll definitely go see that. Well, seeing the yurt one last time, and it looks like a good soul left some wood here for an emergency. I'm looking at how much has changed since I've been gone the last couple months. Knock, knock. Let's see if anyone's been in here. This is the old wood stove, everybody. Of course, thanks to Ryan. Here's some wood. Look at that Free Your Mind conference, 2013. Left a little evidence that I was here. That's Portland in 2006.
You are out here.
This is a butane stove. I'm gonna leave that there. It just needs butane. But this was the little shed here. My old tent is still here. Here, let's get a female reaction.
What's in here? What's this place?
Alex question. Okay. So Alex, where's the school bus pick your kids up here?
It's actually down that road. Really? There actually is a school bus.
Really? Oh. Look, we actually have a little bit of a signal here.
Oh wow.
Just a tiny
bit. And the further away from the yurt, the better it gets.
Let's go ahead.
Thank you for watching my 2013 YouTube Year in Review. Please follow my work at alexansary.tv. Find me on YouTube and Facebook as well.